All right. Thank you very much, Diana. So just by way of introduction, my name is Greg Jacobson. I am a senior manager at Protiviti in the Intelligent Process Automation / Bot Lab group. I make UiPath MVP. And if you are new to the Chicago chapter, the UiPath Chicago chapter is just kind of an opportunity for the UiPath community, obviously extending well beyond Chicago. You don't have to be based in Chicago, but just to extend, our knowledge and community and have these worthwhile discussions and tutorials on the latest and greatest projects. And I'm particularly excited today about the topic because AI Autopilot and ChatGPT and like all of the new, AI technologies that have been released in the past year or so are very exciting and groundbreaking. So we are hosted by also Russell from Cubotica. He is the Southern California UiPath chapter leader, also the tech leader at Cubotica, and he is going to take it away. So go for it, Russ.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Anna. And again, welcome everyone for this session co-hosted by two chapters for the UiPath community, which is Chicago and Southern California, but you can be anywhere in the world as long as you can join virtually. And we are hosting sessions like this for different UiPath components. Now we're covering UiPath, one of the newest component in UiPath, which is Autopilot, and specifically for developers, because you would know later that Autopilot exists AI exists in every UiPath component there is, whether it's a studio, whether it's in test manager, whether it's in assistant. So for different personas, there are Autopilot or AI component for you. But what we're focusing now is Autopilot for Studio, and I'll just cover a bit overview of what AI offering around UiPath, what UiPath provides as an offering. But I'll focus more on demos, which are more interesting for you guys. And I prepared some cool demos for you, particularly for this session. So we'll focus on Autopilot for developers via Studio Web and Studio Desktop via coded workflows. But first, as I said, what is UiPath's capability when it comes to AI-powered automation? How does UiPath deliver more efficiency or developer productivity by leveraging the next generation AI, right? So when it comes to how UiPath deliver this value, you mainly talk about three things, right? In order to efficiently or effectively use AI, you should have first be able to source the context coming from your documents, coming from your communications, coming from your own data, coming from your processes. And this is where automation really thrives, being able to connect and consolidate this context and be able to include it in your automations, right? So first is the context, right? Gathering the context, gathering your source from your documents, from your data. So now where AI comes in, right? As I said, it exists across different products in UiPath, whether it's in Studio, Assistant. I'll show you later these examples. Generally, AI comes in two flavors. One is generative, which is I'm sure you're aware of ChatGPT, the large language model, foundational models. So these are models that can do a number of different tasks. That's why it's generative and can generate new information based on the instructions that you provided. So that's why it's called generative AI. Specialized AI is specifically trained for specific tasks. Let's say you want to do extraction from documents, right? You have invoice, specialized for invoice, specialized for POs. You want to do object detection. So that's specialized AI. That is specialized, specific to do specific things. So these are the two flavors, right? And this is bound by what we call AI trust layer to govern the data that's coming in into this AI models are to give you the the guarantee that these aren't being used for other purposes other than for your own benefit. These are not the data that you have are governed and secured in your own tenant within UiPath Cloud, and in not in any way these are used for other customers training. So because so for some of these discussions, governance and security is the key, especially for enterprise customers. So that's why UiPath has this AI trust layer that encompasses all of their AI related products, right? So now you have the second part of the AI powered automation, which is how AI is embedded into all of these products and how it can provide you output um, that you can use, that you can then use with a downstream application. Let's say you are doing a document understanding use case and you are able to extract from contracts. You are able to analyze and compare contracts. You are able to analyze and compare like policy renewals. What would you do with those information then, right? Then the third piece is action, right? Context, AI process, and then action, right? Action is that the downstream processes that provides the where you use this output from AI from, whether it's you enter this into your ERP, you enter this data into your downstream application, you interact with an API to post this data that you've gathered from your AI process, or you feed it into a human in the loop queue that your human or uh, your your human validators can then go in and validate the output of this AI process. So I mentioned that AI exists in different products or as different flavors within UiPath. And if we categorize these products into personas, then we have this different set of categories, right? So UiPath AI, which is for this in this particular session, we're talking about Autopilot, right? Which is a form of generative AI. Autopilot exists for developers, meaning those who are using Studio, those who are using Studio Web, those who are using apps. So Autopilot comes in many forms when it comes to using these products. For testers, UiPath Autopilot comes in many forms. UiPath Autopilot exists in Test Manager to help you generate test cases. For test developers, UiPath exists in Studio as well to generate the the test automation from the test cases, right? So there are a handful or a number of products or components where UiPath Autopilot exists. For business analysts, process mining, communications mining, I know some of you are aware of, use this for your discovery workshops, right? To discover ideas for automation, whether it's low-hanging fruit or advanced use cases, discovering repeatable tasks that is a good candidate for automation. So that's where it helps business analysts with. Now, Autopilot for everyone, this is where they also call as UI Autopilot for assistant. If we have time, we will show this later as well, some demos around this, but we will focus for now how it can help developers. Autopilot can help developers by using Studio Web, and also for testers, test developers, how Autopilot can help increase their productivity when building automation solutions or testing automations and making sure that they are production ready. So let me just go over to the first set of demo that we prepared. So Autopilot for Studio Web. So first form that it exists in Studio Web. For those who are not familiar for Studio Web, this is the web version of Studio, which is usually the main entry point for those who are beginning or starting to look at UiPath. Because unlike the full-fledged Studio Desktop, Studio Web, you can easily build simple to medium type of automation that, let's say, only interacts with connectors or APIs like Outlook, Salesforce, Google Drive, Excel, and Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So you can easily use a Studio Web to automate those type of task-based automation, right? And to make it much even easier, Studio Web employs Autopilot by helping you generate the scaffolding of your workflow. You don't even have to start from scratch, because by using Autopilot, so this is the first form of Autopilot. By using Autopilot in Studio Web, you can then be able to interact with Studio Web and say, help me. So this is, let's say, I have like 10 different websites, and every now and then I have to update my password, which is very tedious. I have to create a password, a unique one, and then I have to go to this website and change my password, and I can't even remember what the password I put in. So in this basic scenario, first scenario that I want to show you, I'll go ahead and say, help me generate a random password. So there's this website that I generate my password for, or you can use whatever password generator website that you have. So I'll just copy and paste that website's name. Then use the generated password to reset my password at, then let's say this is one of the website that you want to reset your password for, right? And just paste it there as well. Then probably I want to notify me in Teams. And this is where the native connectors comes in with my new password. So this is a combination of, as you've noticed, this is a combination of both API and UI-based automation, right? So this Studio Web, what it generates is a cross-platform type of automation, meaning it can run on serverless, Linux server. And the way it does UI automation is through, if it's a website, it's through Chromium API. So you can combine both UI and API automation as well. But UI automation limited to website. So let's just make it simple. Let's do the API automation later in a bit. So just generating random password from this website and resetting my password here. So I'm not doing any workflow creation here. I'm just asking Autopilot to create the scaffolding for me and help me get started, right? So, and this can be as complex as, let's say you have 3 or 4 different systems that you want to automate. You just need to describe it specifically. And then it will create the scaffolding for you, and then you can continue to UiPath Studio to finalize the connections, right? To make sure that the input parameters are correct, or in this case, for UI-based automations, I can also leverage the power of Autopilot or generative AI to generate the UI workflow for me, right? So that's the second form of where Autopilot exists, is it helps me generate the automation workflow. I just need to specify the website, right? And then click generate. And based on, as you can see here, based on, it popped up in the other window, based on what my prompt was, so it is able to identify, as you can see here, it is able to identify the steps, UI steps, right? Click on this and then extract, and then I click confirm. If I want to do anything else, let's say I want to get text, I can just get text from the, I think this is what it does anyways, the password field. So this is the, so this is redundant, but this is how you can add new activities as well from here. So and if you don't, this is not what you want, then you can discard it and then just click save, right? So it then generates the this workflow for you. Now the next one I want to generate the UI workflow is filling up the form. So I click generate, and then this is the prompt. Then it will so I can either do this, or I can go on the, just do a click, or no, the type into then indicate the target right here and confirm. And then similarly for the password, I type into and then click confirm password, right? So yeah, and then finally, what I just need to do is get the password from here, and then see what the so this is the generated password. It automatically assigns to a variable right here. I didn't create this variable, it just automatically assigns for me. But if you notice, I have like several lines of password here, right? But I only want to get this one, right? So the third form, how it can help you, how Autopilot exists or in Studio Web, is through expressions builder, right? Because let's say this is the password field. I don't want to type in the whole generated password. I just want to type in this line, right? Because it extracts all this line, but I only want this, right? And the generated password includes all of this. So what I want to do, if I don't know the syntax on how to just get the first line, I can be able to ask, I can open expression editor. I can say, um, get the first line of text from the generated password. And that's it. You just ask what you want to do, and then it will generate it will create the expression for you. And then you can test your input right here. Like this is the first line, second line, third line. Yeah, I can test this. Oh, yep, and then it goes to it outputs the first line. So yeah, so it outputs the first line. So it's as easy as talking to like a peer developer, right? Uh, uh, an autopilot, what they call, to help you with this different developer productivity um, aspects, right? So let me run like this is the same one that automate password, right? So when you run it via Studio Web, as I mentioned, this is a headless automation, or this can run serverless. If it includes UI automation, then it will also show the run progress here. Since this includes UI automation, I can see how the robot is doing right here. So it will show the cloud robot where it's running from, and then it will run it from here, and then it will generate the password, and then it will type the password for you. So I just write the password line right here. So that's those are three forms. Again, just a quick recap. In Studio Web, Autopilot can help you generate the workflow, so you don't have to start it from scratch. It will create a scaffolding for you. Number two, if your automation involves UI, um, by just providing your prompt, it can help you generate the UI workflow by clicking generate button in this UI scope right here. And number three, it can easily provide you the expressions or the syntax for data manipulation or whatever you would like to do using expressions builder. So that's how Studio Web can help you make your development more productive by using Autopilot. So let's go with another one. I mentioned earlier that so let's say you have another use case, right? That is fully API. So let's say this is a business related use case. Whenever I receive an email on, let's say, Gmail, so I want Gmail. Oh, let's just look here whenever. Oh, cancel. Whenever I receive an email from Gmail, um, with vendor in the subject, extract the vendor text, search, then search for the vendor in Google. So this is UI automation. Then create the new vendor in Oracle, example, NetSuite, and notify me on Slack. So it can be as simple as the password generation process that I showed before, or it can have multiple application interactions or multiple API integrations that you can see here as well. So you can be very creative, and again, it helps you really create a uh, good start, a scaffolding for your workflow that you're thinking, or your use case, without having to manually do it from scratch. So that's how what the power of Autopilot is for Studio Web. So, yep. So now, so I showed how UiPath's Autopilot can help for developers using Studio Web. But how about if you're a test developer then? If you're a tester, in the testing space, there's lots of opportunity for automation as well. Not only in developing automated test cases, but most importantly in um, creating initial sets of test cases based on your requirements, right? So I have examples here. I have Test Manager here. For those who are not familiar with Test Manager is part of Test Suite, which comprises of Test Manager, of course, Studio, Studio Pro, they call it before, to develop test cases, and Orchestrator to execute test cases and integrate with your DevOps. In this case, I'm showing Test Manager, which is basically the entry point for the requirements, synchronizing requirements from your ALM systems, whether it's Jira, whether it's Azure DevOps. So with Test Manager, you can synchronize whatever requirements that you have documented, user story points, let's say, issues that you track in Jira, and then it will automatically synchronize here. And then from here, as a tester, with the help of UiPath Studio, I can then go in on this particular requirements, let's say, and this is um, directly from Jira. Um, I can do automated test generation, right? So I have the requirements, I have the acceptance criteria, I have the flow for this particular requirement. Now, as a tester, I want to build a test cases that covers this requirement and more, right? And that is by just creating generate tests here. And I have this submit loan instructions, which is just basically um, providing prompt or best practices for developing a good test case. In this case, this is the content of the submit loan requirements. When creating test case for the requirement, strictly follow these guidelines, challenge any assumptions mentioned in the requirement, test out-of-age input, basically like your guidelines when creating the test cases, basically what your current policies are for your testing team or testing center of excellence. So I will attach that, and then along with the description of the requirements, I will then click next and generate test. And then it starts to generate the test cases. So again, the main important thing here are the supporting the overview of the requirement with the acceptance criteria, the related documents or guidelines that you have, or probably the PDD, not the PDD, but if it's a application that you're building, the requirements for those applications specifically for this submit loan request. So anything that can support and help you create a good test case will be helpful for this. Then now it generates the test cases for you and associated steps, as you can see here. You don't have to manually like document step by step what are these test cases, but by just having the acceptance criteria and the user flow and some supporting documentation and guidelines, by just clicking generate test, it generate this test for you, this and documented these test cases for you. So now I can click create tests. Now my job as a tester is done. So what I will do now, I have all of these test cases right here. Now I can hand this over to my test developer to automate these test cases. Now shifting from a tester persona, I'm now a test developer persona. that uses UiPath Studio to automate my test cases. And as you know, you can use Studio for any type of automation, whether it's business process automation, IT automation, test automation in this case. I will use UiPath Studio to automate building the automated test cases for me. So automating the automation, basically. So let me just show you that to you real quick. So this studio is connected to Test Manager, obviously, so that it can fetch the test cases that was generated. So how you can verify the connection is like through here, Test Manager settings, and then configuration, and then it's connected to this particular project that I showed earlier, right here. This is, and these are the ID of the project. So this is connected to here. You just need to specify the URL of your test manager, whether it's on-prem or on cloud, until the test manager underscore. So that's what you want to specify. So once you've connected your studio to test manager, and then one other thing is the application involved. So you may have your library already here, the UI library in this case, because this is also will be used by by the autopilot to build the automated test cases. Right? So it's just as easy as recording the different elements. You can actually record all elements at once, capture it all at once, and then you will have it easily created this. But I want to focus on the testing piece. So now you connected the test manager into your studio. Then you can fetch all the test cases that was generated. And this is exactly what you're seeing here. And what you want to do is you want to generate automated test cases for each of this test case that was documented. So what you do is just right click and then create coded test case. I'll show you the difference between these two, but for now I'll say create coded test case. So it will generate the coded test automation file for me, and I know this is a coded workflow because number one, it's of course it's C sharp, right? And number two, I have this method decorator right here, which lets the compiler knows that this is a test case. So it automatically generated the coded test case for me just by specifying the test case documented in test manager earlier right here. So it synchronized it into Studio, and then from Studio I generated the coded test case file. Now what should I do with this, right? It doesn't have anything here except for the log. Why did you say I can generate the automated test case from here? And that's the next part that I'm going to show is by just specifying all of this, or you can specify part of it or just all of it, and then generate code. So based on these comments that was also generated from the test case, like just clicking generate code, it will look at the comments on the which are the steps for the test case workflow, and then it will look at my object repository, and then voila, it has built the the test automation for you, including the verification right here. Probably you might need to tweak some of these clicks because it has to correspond to what you have here. Let's say this is apply for a loan. This should just be apply. So I did not do any coding. I just used Autopilot to, number one, generate the steps and create the coded test case file. And then number two, from the comments, it generated the actual steps that I can just run here. If I run this, so this is a full-fledged automated test case that you will see here without me doing any coding, just documenting and then running the generate test case and generated coded test case. Yep, I think. Yeah, so this is what you need to make sure that is corresponding to the banking app that you have, right? So let me open this one. So this one is another generated test case, right? So it should be opening home of UiPath banking app. So this is working. So, yep, opens your application, go, and then goes to the specific page, which is loans, and then click apply, and then enter the. It also auto-generated the test data, right? As you can see here, I didn't specify any test data, so it just based on the scenario, the test scenario, it just generated for me. And this is a scenario for underage testing, submit underage request, and this verification passed based on what you see right here. Okay. Great. At this point, is there any questions from anyone that probably some can answer some questions, burning questions at this point? So far from what you've seen, how do you think it helps you, or how you can get started? So yeah, I'm open for questions right now before I show some additional demos that we prepared. So feel free
Yeah,
to.
Russell, there's no questions in the chat, but if anybody wants to take themselves off mute, please feel free to ask.
Yep.
I guess I'll ask, if you think, Russell, that the Studio Web autopilot, code generation is coming to Studio.
Uh-huh. Sorry, can you repeat that question, Greg?
Like in Studio, how you can basically type out the prompt in Studio Web and it'll build the activities.
Got it. So in Studio Web, yep, thanks for that question, Greg. So in Studio Web, autopilot exists. One form it exists is through workflow scaffolding generation. In Studio Desktop, the way it exists in Studio Desktop is through coded automation generation. Just like what you see here, I have this workflow. Just I built, like, I just provided
Right, it's just the C#
comments.
Right.
Yep.
It won't like add, drag and drop activities yet.
That I don't think it already exists for the low code automation. For the coded in Studio Desktop, it exists both for RPA developers and test developers. So similarly, the only difference is this method decorator. For test case, it's test case. For RPA workflows, it's workflow right here. And then same thing, you can highlight the comments that you have and then help generate, right? So this is not being used for test case. Now it's being used for automation right here.
Pretty darn
So,
cool.
so yeah, I think this is also so yeah, it identified that the RPA challenge is in this new application right here, Edge, and then create a list of string containing first name and last name. So since this is C#, I mean, you can do string manipulation on other types of C# class files that you have as well. You can even generate, like there are other source files here. Let's say you have an employee workflow to get the list of employees from database, let's say. So yeah, not only automation workflow, but other types of classes or models that you have you want to build in Studio, right? So this is what is called coded automation and coded test automation, which Autopilot can help you generate codes for. So
Sweet.
yep, thanks, Greg.
So, Russell, this is Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
How are you doing? Very well, actually. You're doing very well. But in term, you know, if you look at the marketplace, an autopilot or a co-pilot or whatever it's being called is really prevalent across any number of different applications. So within the UiPath business automation platform, are you thinking about some places we don't see it yet?
Good question. So in the first part of the presentation, I focused where it exists, where like it exists for developers in Studio Web for productivity and development. It exists for testers. It exists for business analysts. But where it does not exist, that's quite like a tricky one, because even for traditional like or legacy systems, right? Even just for systems, even for old systems that you want to automate, usually your thinking is to just do the traditional UI automation RPA route, right? And without any, you won't be able to use modern AI technologies. But automation or autopilot can also, in fact, help you on this automating these legacy systems by I'm not sure if you've heard about the semantic automation. Semantic automation helps you easily transfer data over one source. Source can be Excel, source can be a form, or from one data or from one source to another by just one activity, and that activity does all the thinking for you. What data needs to be mapped from and into. So that's why it's hard to think which part of the UiPath platform doesn't have anything embedded with AI, because now even with document related use cases, all of this to some extent has an AI component within it. That's not that much apparent as the other ones. So yeah, that's
I think, Russell, let me know if like this is considered the semantic type of AI, but Charlie, like what, I don't know if you're familiar with the Clipboard AI, the UiPath
yes,
tool.
yes.
Right.
So that it's in beta, it's not fully out yet, but that will probably be the fastest, zero effort type of AI automation where you just, let's say you have to enter data from an invoice into a system. You can, with Clipboard AI, copy, quote unquote, the data from the invoice, and it's able to like understand it instantly on the fly, and then paste it in your other application, and it recognizes all the fields in the application and kind of figures out what's supposed to go where. And it's just like right on the fly, you do it in real time.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, if it's ever out of beta, it will be awesome. But that one was really, really cool to me, but I don't think that's technically considered autopilot. So that's a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And to give face to that product that uh, Greg is mentioning. So semantic automation, actually the technology that they use in Clipboard AI is the same technology that UiPath use in semantic automation. So in order for Clipboard AI to identify um, right here, right? In order for Clipboard AI to identify these fields, and in order for Clipboard AI to identify the output field or structure, it uses an AI model, a semantic automation, to be able to map these two sources together. From it's just literally a clipboard copy paste with steroids, right? So I mean it gives you the power to copy from anything and enter it into anything and everything as well. In this example, from an Excel sheet into basically control C on this Excel sheet, and then control V on this form, and it identifies where to map these fields into.
Right, it's like three technologies in one. It's one, you're OCRing an image of a license, for example. Two, you're using some sort of document understanding technology to understand what the characters in the image actually represent. And then three, you're looking at the destination for it and creating a map based on, semantic AI and understanding of the words involved and what most likely correlates to what. So it's pretty cool that it can do all of that kind of bundled into one tool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's this another example where instead of images, you can also do PDF or invoice. Right here, you copy from here, right? Don't nothing special. How you copy is just specify this whole thing. You don't need to highlight. You just specify this full page. Just one click, and then when you're pasting, it's not pasting all of this into this sheet. As you can see, it's pasting only the relevant information that you need. In this case, the lines. Right? It automatically creates a structured output out of a semi-structured or unstructured output, and that is through semantic AI. Right? So this is powered by the latest generative AI technologies as well. And I also alluded to a bit earlier, autopilot for everyone, right? So we discussed about autopilot for developers, we discussed about for testers, autopilot for business analysts. How about autopilot for just anyone and everyone, right? In what form does it exist, right? With the power of both generative AI and automation, so autopilot for assistant is just like, as you can see here, a chatbot, right? But not just a regular chatbot. It's a chatbot that can help you do tangible things, not just converse with it, but also automate something or make it do something, action, right? Remember, context, process, and action. You provide the context, whether it's an image, whether it's a text, whether it's an attachment, you provide the context. You ask for what you need it to do, and then it will do that instruction or action that you ask it to. In this case, the user has provided this attachment for a loan request, and then it's able to extract the details from this image or ID, and then the user asks and submit the application to UiBank, right? And it was able to identify which automation it should execute based on just this particular prompt or instruction that was provided to the UiPath Autopilot, right? So this is definitely one of the this is still in early stage, early preview, so this is not publicly available yet, but this is definitely a game changer, right? Imagine just chatting with your UiPath Autopilot, and then your day's worth of task is completed, right? You don't really have to interact with any other applications. Just using Autopilot can help do all these things for you, right? And it uses context coming from your own company's data as well, so it doesn't hallucinate. Because one of the main challenges for like ChatGPT or other public language models or or chatbot out there that uses LLM is it 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 hallucinates because so sometimes it has access to really vast information, even the wider internet. And what you want in order for it to be useful in a business context, you want to interact with your own data source in your own company, right? So in this case, you can connect it in your Salesforce or ServiceNow if you're or using this as an IT. If you're using this as a sales persona, you can it can be connected to your Salesforce. So then you can ask it, if you have a meeting with this prospect, find out more about this client, and then it will search your Salesforce database and provide the necessary information. Who is the sales engineer working to support this opportunity? Then since it's connected to your own data, it won't go to the wider internet and search for just any names out there. It won't hallucinate. It will provide the sales engineers who's working on this based on your own data, right? And then again, it can help you set up a meeting. So this is an automation. So starting from just conversing and gathering information, now you're using it to automate and set up a meeting, and then it will set up the meeting for you, right? So this is really something that in my perspective, is big when it comes to impact to businesses and even for individuals or any type of personas that you are in your company. So yeah, I think so yeah, that's all I want to share. If you have any questions, we still have 5 minutes to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for listening.
Great job, Russell. Thank you so much, you and Greg. And just one more thing about the chapter. If you guys have any topics you'd like us to discuss or more about AI or anything else, please just let us know, and we're happy to accommodate you. Well, thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.